of us have heard stories of the life of King David, the man after God's own heart, and who toppled Goliath. After David died, his son Solomon became the third king of Israel. One evening, after King Solomon had gone to Gibeon to offer sacrifices to God, he fell asleep. And while snoozing, something fantastic happened. God came to him in a dream and said something unbelievable. God said to Solomon, "Ask for anything that you want me to give you." 1,000 ideas must have exploded into Solomon's mind. Gold, power, immortality. There's no telling what he may have thought, but we do know his response to God. In his dream, Solomon thanked God for his kindness. And then he said this, "Lord my God, you have now made me king. You've put me in the place of my father David, but I'm only a little child. I don't know how to carry out my duties. I'm here among the people you have chosen. They are a great nation. They're more than anyone can count. So give me a heart that understands. Then I can rule over your people. I can tell the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Who can possibly rule over this great nation of yours?" In other words, Solomon had a really simple request, but one that would change his life forever. Solomon asked for wisdom to help rule over God's people. God responded to Solomon in this way. The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for that. So God said to him, "You have not asked to live for a long time. You've not asked to be wealthy. You've not even asked to have your enemies killed. Instead, you have asked for wisdom. You want to do what is right and fair when you judge people. Because that is what you have asked for, I will give it to you. I will give you a wise and understanding heart. So here is what will be true of you. There has never been anyone like you, and there never will be." Solomon returned to Jerusalem, where he offered more sacrifices before the Lord and gave a feast for all of his officials. Soon Solomon's wisdom was tested by two women who had a really big dispute. As King Solomon was doing super important royal duties, two women burst into the room arguing. The first woman spoke, explaining the friends lived in the same home and had baby boys born around the same time.
"Nope! Wrong! We are not friends. Finally, we can agree on one thing."
The first woman explained her friend's child sadly died during the night, but the friend had swapped the babies.
"Still wrong. We aren't friends. But she did take my baby." "Lies, all lies." "No, they aren't. Look, Your Majesty, her nose is growing."
"Her nose looks fine to me."
So both women were telling King Solomon the baby was hers. And God gave Solomon a really wise idea.
"Bring me my sword."
When King Solomon received the sword, he ordered that the baby be cut in half. Solomon wasn't going to hurt the baby, don't worry. He just wanted to see what was in the woman's hearts. And in that moment, the first woman, whose son was alive, pleaded with the king to give the baby to the second woman because she didn't want the child to die.
"Stop! Give the baby to the liar! Just don't kill him!" "Yeah, give me the baby."
The test worked. King Solomon recognized the first woman was telling the truth and returned the baby to his mom.
"Come to Mama!" "Oh, be quiet."
As word spread to the Israelites about the king's decision, their respect for Solomon grew. So the reason this story stands out to me is because we have a new king who could have asked God for anything. Instead of wasting the opportunity on something temporary, Solomon asked for wisdom. And during an argument, we see how God's wisdom helped King Solomon. The king wasn't going to harm the baby, but he was wise enough to recognize the true mother of the baby. And because the wisdom God gave Solomon, the Israelites trusted that he was a wise king who would rule them justly. God made Solomon so wise that his understanding couldn't even be measured. Like the sand on a seashore, there was so much wisdom. The story reminds us where all wisdom comes from, God. And if you're facing a tough decision, you can go to God and ask for wisdom like Solomon did. And when you don't know what to do, talk to God. Our memory verse this month echoes this truth. It says, "If any of you needs wisdom, you should ask God for it. He will give it to you." Pearls of wisdom should not only be found accidentally stuck in the anchors of life. Wisdom should be sought from God. And wisdom can be found when we trust God. So, as we close out today, I want you to think about this question. Why do you need wisdom? Think about the different sorts of decisions you make throughout the day. Will you study for this test? Will you talk to that kid? How do you respond to that question? What do you say in that situation? How could wisdom help you in these sorts of situations?